This is the 7th in the UNDP Biodiversity Communications video series. In this video, we'll be looking at and analysing the stories that surround and support the Human Development Report. Rosie, over to you.
Thanks. Yep, as Ben's just said, we'll be looking at the Human Development Report in this video, and in the research design that sits at the macro level. So the stories analysed were the stories from the 1990 inception of the Human Development Report until the 2009 story, which was has been made as one story because it's very similar throughout the years, but just in different contexts. And then the 2010 story is its story in itself because it went through an adjustment and was also the 20th anniversary report. And then we also focused on the 2019 Human Development Report to understand the most recent story of the Human Development Report in order to propose a 2020 adjusted report. So our findings can be kind of put into these four buckets in a way that we ask, what is the story trying to tell us? Well, by placing humans at the heart of development instead of financial wealth, this can lead to healthier societies. And what's holding the storytelling back? Well, in story terms, the protagonists have remained static throughout all of the years of the Human Development Report. And this has limited the potential to bring more people into the story. So what could make the story stronger? Well, new issues provide the hook for new protagonists to engage if the space is made in those stories. And so how can you then grow the story? Well, you have to increase the potency of nature-based human development stories of change by harnessing what the HDR already has, so the HDR assets. I'm going to hand over to Guy now, who will delve a bit deeper into these four ideas.
Thank you. Yes, there's more detail in the appendix, but what we're trying to do for each of these is bring it to life with just kind of three key points. What the story is trying to tell us is the narrative. It's the kind of big idea, and it's really, really important. It is a well-told story, and it's gained great traction, but it needs updating. And the reason why it needs updating is that we need newness. Otherwise, we think that we've heard this story before, and we just kind of switch off. We also, these second and third points are kind of related. We need clearer parameters on the story. We need to kind of like know that actually there's a lose-lose impact on human development, and there's a kind of a win-win. So we need sort of more black and white positioning for the story. In terms of what's holding the storytelling back, well, most stories that are interesting to us are about people, but this story primarily is actually a story of development issues, and it's the story of their journey and how they changed over time. And for us, this is just less engaging as a hook. We need it to be a journey of changing human behavior. There's also not enough movement in the story, so there's not enough room to grow. We don't have actors that can come in either as redeemed villains or new mentors or new allies. And the humans that do appear in the story, it's not being clear enough about where they've come from and what they're going to and why that's better. In terms of what could make the story stronger, first and foremost, the most powerful thing is to put nature alongside humans as the hero of the story and to really reorientate this kind of story. Secondly, there's a huge opportunity with the index and its evolution to bring new people into the story, particularly around environment, technology and climate. And then it's the way that we tell the story type. And so a lot of this stories to date and previous reports have been about quests that have been about overcoming the monster, but actually we need this about rebirth. So it is more hopeful and it's kind of clearer about the opportunities that are there right in front of us. And finally, how to grow the story. Well, there are some sort of immediate opportunities now and in the kind of next 12 months. first of all, is finding those kind of new champions and engaging them and bringing them in from the areas of like education, climate and technology. And one of the ways to do this is to think about HDR as the mentor and the gift being the power of quantification. So it's all the know-how, it's all the kind of experience that lies behind the index that become really, really powerful. And that will enable other people to help own the story, but also for their stories to become part of yours. And so really what we want to do is shift the index so that it becomes one of the gifts of the mentor, which is the role that HDR plays, and then actually turn the challenges, the real kind of meat of the story, into opportunities where you're showing how quantification can turn real problems into solutions. Just to kind of show how this might play out, we're just going to have a look at the 2019 and then a sort of potential 2020 story. In terms of the everyday heroes for 2019, we're looking at humans and all their diversity. The world that they're stuck in is not working. Inequality is a real frustration, and inequality is getting worse, particularly around these new areas of education, technology and climate breakdown. That represents a new generation of inequalities as a villain. We need to act now. That's clear, before power becomes entrenched in political dominance. And the threshold moment, that the kind of way that people can kind of get involved is pursuing a revolution in metrics. The mentors, the founder and founders of the indices, and the beyond income, beyond averages and beyond today have been very sort of powerful series of escalating kind of challenges that have given the story momentum. And that better world has been described as the resources and opportunities that are given to people through development that leads to the richness of societies. So that's very much how the story is being told today. In terms of thinking about some of those insights and how we might apply them, a 2020 story could evolve in this manner. So the everyday heroes, we're talking about putting nature at the heart of human development, so alongside humans. The ordinary world, actually we've still got this kind of context of continually and increasing and complex change. When you add in COVID-19 and recovery and renewal, we've got a lot of frustrations that are driving us to leave the ordinary world and seek a better one. The compelling villain stands as this new generation of inequalities. Shifting the call to adventure and crossing the threshold together, actually the 30-year anniversary is a huge opportunity, and particularly the continuity of that message that you've continually been alive to new threats is a really powerful call to adventure, and asking people to join you in improving how you respond is a very, very powerful message. We talked about your role as mentor and the gifts that you can give in terms of your track record and know-how and quantification, and using that to bring in allies and gifts. And I think there's a real opportunity to look back through 1990 to 2019 and find previous beneficiaries and elevate and celebrate them as allies, as well as bringing in innovative tech services, business models, people that are doing things differently in education and technology and climate to tackle human development. In terms of the challenges, well, this is where we're sort of shifting the indicators out and putting the kind of real world in. COVID-19, the response to climate, and the response to biodiversity breakdown are kind of three distinct but overlapping and pressing challenges that need to be tackled. But once tackled, the better world that we're working towards that needs to inspire people is actually humans in harmony with nature is leading to increased richness across societies, leading to healthier systems, healthier kind of values. It'll allow us to defeat the villain and overcome those three challenges. And just to highlight, it's very much your role as mentor, which is the fulcrum and the kind of cornerstone of this story.
And so to wrap up this slide, I won't go through point by point, but essentially draws out each of the recommendations from the analysis and places them within the 5-point framework that we use videos, I think 4 and 5, to unpack and explain.
Brilliant. So that's the end of that video, but if you want to delve deeper into the research, there's quite a long appendices attached to this deck, which you'll find a summary of the findings and the stories analysed using the story tools as explained in videos 4 and 5. And then the additional information which has helped inform what we have presented to you today. So that includes a story SWOT of the HDR, the gift of quantification, and the role of the 3 indicators. Up next is video 8, which will take a look into the biodiversity landscape and the UNDP Nature for Development portfolio.